Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 270, and I'm Lisa, who's also known as Fiber Nymph on the internet, most places. So I will put my screen in here so you can see where you can find me across social media. All right, how are you today? It is Thursday, January 11th. We are finally out from underneath our horribly cold temperatures. The weather finally broke earlier this week, so we've actually been having melting happening. A lot of the snow is melted, and it's so funny because underneath all the bird feeders that I can see, like there's just piles of bird seed. The birds are so messy, they throw so much, but you didn't see it while it was all falling into the snow. Now that the snow's melting, there's just big piles of bird food. But the birds are still enjoying it. So anyway, I hope you're doing well. I hope the weather is treating you okay wherever you are. It's Thursday. I'm not sure how it got to be Thursday already this week, but it's Thursday. It is de-Christmased here at the mountain house. As you can see, my little reindeer friend is gone, and he's been replaced by a little llama. My daughter gave me this for Christmas. He was in a box, and it was a Hug a Llama or How to Hug a Llama kit. I don't remember what it was, but it was just a cute little llama. So I decided that he could take the place of the reindeer now. He can just stand up there and watch over me. I've tentatively named him Louie just because it's alliterative. Louie the llama. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, like everything else is down. Although I do still have my Christmas mugs out. I need to rearrange our cabinet so I can make space for them. And I'm drinking some sort of, I think, pineapple tea today. I don't know. This is Hawaiian Islands Tea Company, and I'm pretty sure it was pineapple. It's not as strongly fruity as some of the other teas I was drinking last week, but it's still good. It's a black tea. Okay, it's because you needed to know that. But I guess that's what podcasters are supposed to talk about, right? Usually I don't drink tea, so I never have tea to talk about. So I guess when I do have tea to talk about, I'll let you know. Let's see. I actually have a couple people to welcome who introduced themselves in the 90% Knitting group in the welcome thread recently, and that was Emma from New Zealand. Emma is also my daughter's name. That's always fun. And Jamie Lee from Massachusetts, who said that her local yarn shop is basically Webb's because Webb's is right across the road from her. So that's pretty darn cool. Anyway, welcome to both of you, Emma and Jamie Lee. It's great to have you here, and thank you for joining our community. So, I'm trying to think if I had any other administrative things. Oh, I do. I wanted to mention last week's podcast, so episode 269, as well as the prize winners episode that I recorded a little later in the week. I'm using a new processing software. Actually, it's not a new software. It's the same one I've been using, but it's an upgraded version of it so that I can process it at a higher quality. I'm not really sure what the deal was. I mean, the program I was using is what had come on my new laptop, which was the same program I had been using on my old computer that I had purchased years and years ago. So it was a newer version than what I had been using, but all of a sudden in recent, I want to say the last couple of months, suddenly the processing was going super fast. And I had a couple of comments from people saying, hey, what's going on with the quality of your podcast? Because it's really not very good. It had gone downhill is basically what they were saying. And so I don't know what happened because I hadn't changed anything in the software. I hadn't changed any settings or anything. So I'm just assuming it's because I never upgraded it. And, you know, they're always prompting you, upgrade, upgrade. So anyway, I bit the bullet and I upgraded. So now I can process things at a much higher quality, and it takes way longer to do. So I guess that's a sign that it's at a higher quality. I don't know. Anyway, let me know, if you could just let me know if you're noticing a difference. This will be on YouTube. On iTunes, you probably will not be noticing a difference because I am limited in the file size that I can upload to iTunes, so I can't really do much there. But on YouTube, I'm really hoping that last week's episode looked way better to you if you're watching on YouTube, especially if you're watching on a larger screen. Um, it never looked super fuzzy to me, but I tend to watch mostly on my phone, and that's a tiny little screen, so I'm not the best judge. I thought it looked better on my computer screen when I checked it out, but I would love some feedback on that. If it looked better last week, and hopefully this week also if it's clearer and crisper, because I bought the new software, so hopefully it was worth it. But that was all I wanted to say about that. Otherwise, I've got knitting to talk about and other things related to knitting. So let's get started. I've got some finished objects for you this week, which is very exciting. And the first one is my Project Peace 2017 shawl. I gotta tell you, I love how this shawl turned out. Let me just show it to you first. This was the Project Peace 2017 shawl pattern by Christina Campbell, and I knitted out of Hazelnut's Cadence, which is a worsted weight yarn. It was one of her big wheels, which is a 600-yard wheel of yarn in the heirloom colorway. So let's see. This is this is the straight edge. It turned out to be a giant triangle, which I knew it was going to be, but the triangle has all three sides are a different length. So that's what, is that a scalene triangle? I don't remember my geometry that well. At any rate, so this was the straight edge where the increases were not happening. And then you've got your short edge that has the pretty feather and fan that I didn't screw it up too badly, so I'm super proud of myself there. But then you have the increase edge, which ended up being the diagonal edge, and it's the longest edge. So, did I get that right? No, I did not get that right. Oh wait, did I? Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. Hang on. Yes, that's correct. The eyelet edge is the longest edge. So, it's hard for me to show this to you all in one big shot, and I have not had a chance to take any pretty finished object pictures of it yet. Still working on that. But I've been trying to figure out how to wear it. And the best I can come up with is if I put the eyelet edge, like the longest edge at the top, and then I tuck this tip, the short edge, underneath, and then have this part draping down. It like this wraps around this shoulder really nice and down my back, and so then I have, I can't really even stand up to show you this right, I don't think. Here, we'll move over here. I've got this feather and fan edge here on the outside, and then it goes all the way down. Literally that point ends like at the middle of the back of my thigh. That's how long it is. But anyway, this seems to be the best way to wear it, that it would do any amount of good to keep you warm. So yeah, I've just got to say, I love this shawl. You know, I cast it on just because I wanted to do the Project Peace project again this year, and I had this yarn and I knew it would work really well for it. But I wasn't super excited about the design. I knew what it was supposed to look like, but I was more excited about that Kate Davies pattern that I was also starting right around the same time, the Otter shawl, that is essentially this exact same pattern, except instead of doing this stockinette with an occasional garter ridge, it's all garter stitch and then the feather and fan. That was the one I was really wanting to do, but I'm doing that out of fingering weight, and so I set that aside to work on this one over the holidays. I love how this turned out. Now let me tell you a little bit about how this worked out for me, because I did not have enough yarn to do the pattern as written. I did the largest size. There was a small size and a large size for doing DK weight yarn. You could do either a fingering weight or a DK weight version. I did the DK weight version, but I did it with worsted weight yarn. So I did run short on yarn. But I did all of these stockinette sections with these garter ridges. I did all of those. I think there were 19 of them. So it's the feather and fan section that I got shorted. And honestly, that's fine. I ended up doing 3 feather and fan lace sections, repeats. I was supposed to do 4, I think. And then there was supposed to be a whole bunch of just like garter ridges at the end of this before you bound off, probably about that much in garter. I could only do, I think, 2 garter ridges plus a row maybe, and then I bound off. No, actually I did 2 garter ridges and I bound off. I tried to do a 5th garter row and I ended up playing yarn chicken and losing during my bind off, and I I decided to just accept that, and I tore it back out and just started binding off a row earlier, and it was fine. I ended up with, I had like 1.5 yards of yarn left at the end, so I was super happy about that. Anyway, I actually really like how this edging turned out. It's not as big as it was supposed to be, but I honestly didn't like the look of all just the garter ridges. I mean, I like this feather and fan, the lacy feather and fan bit, but having the garter after it, I wasn't crazy about. So I'm glad I didn't have enough yarn to do that, to tell you the truth. This was amazing in the other way that, like, I finished it, I believe Monday morning, I bound it off, and within an hour I had it blocking. I never block things that quickly. But I wanted to block it out to see how much it would grow, because when I had finished it and I tried wrapping it, it felt like a weird size, like it was too big to wear as a scarf, you know, to wrap it up here, but it wasn't quite big enough to do the wrap that I just showed you. So once I blocked it out, I was at my house that morning, and so I blocked it on my daughter's bed because she's not there using it anymore. And she has a twin size bed, and it pretty much took up the entire length of the twin size bed once it was blocked out. So that gives you an idea of how long it is. But I love it. I absolutely love it, and I love this yarn. The colors, I don't know how well they're picking up for you, but they are just so rich. They've got so much depth. They're very autumnal, but they're beautiful. I just love it. I'm so happy with this. Now, though, that I'm finished with this, I'm actually rethinking that the other one, the Kate Davies one, because I was doing it out of fingering weight, so it's going to be smaller. And that one, I believe, had the option of doing it out of either sport or one of the heavier weights, DK or worsted, I don't remember now. And I chose to do the lighter version, obviously, but I'm doing it out of fingering, which means it's going to be a little smaller. And I'm not doing the large version. I think there was 2 different versions of that too. I only have enough yarn to do the smaller version. And I guess my thought on this is I'm going to end up with a smaller shawl that's going to be this same strange shape, this, you know, oddly shaped triangle. And I don't know that I'll really want it as a scarf. I mean, it would turn out to be a scarf, and I guess it would be okay. It's shaped a little differently just in the fact that the increases are slightly slower. This increased every other row. That one increases 2 times every 6 rows, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a little bit narrower of a growth in the triangle, or I guess out. I don't know. I'm not very far in. I've only got like this much of the garter section done, I think. I haven't even looked at it in a month. So I'm really not sure. I may just rip that out and use that yarn for something else, because I really like the yarn. I was using Destination Yarns, 2 different bases, 2 different fingering bases of hers, but the colorways were beautiful. One was the November Witch colorway, which was a lot of deep blue, sea greens, dark murky colors like that, just really vivid. I know murky and vivid doesn't go together, but they were just really rich colors. You can see it on my project page if you look on Ravelry. And then the edging I was going to do out of this dark navy and bluish kind of variegated, tonal, more tonal than variegated, which I think was called Harvest Moon. Just beautiful colors, and I want to enjoy them, but I'm thinking there may be a better pattern for me to use those for. That's my thought at this point. So we'll see. I don't know. I haven't made any decisions yet, but that's where I'm leaning. But this I absolutely love. Love, love, love. Way more than I expected to. And that's so much fun when you put so much time and effort into a project. I mean, I know obviously we don't usually start projects out saying, I don't think I'm going to really like this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that wasn't how I felt about this. I just hadn't anticipated loving it as much as I do. So I'm going to chuck it over there onto the couch so I have space. Anyway, it's done. I'm thrilled with it. Yay, I have a finished object. As far as other finished objects, I did this one you saw last week, but I finished it. I blocked my quadri hat, which, if you remember, I was kind of lamenting the fact that I had done the small instead of the large because I felt like it was too small. But I'll tell you what, I did it out of superwash yarn, and it really did open up tremendously here. I will put it on for you. I will mess my hair up for you guys. So it fits much more comfortably now than it did when I first finished it, now that it's blocked out. It's a little slouchy. I think I have it pulled on a little more than I did before, but there's like a little tiny bit of extra space up here. I wouldn't even call it slouch, but it fits more comfortably. Again, being the variegated colorway, here, let me get really close to you. You can't see the patterning as well as you could on a semi-solid or a tonal yarn. I knew that going in. I just really wanted to knit with this colorway. This is my leaf pile colorway, and I did it out of my cozy base, which is my superwash worsted. Anyway, so I blocked it, and I put the pom-pom on, and I like the little pom-pom. He's cute. I had enough yarn. I could have done a larger pom-pom, but I'm happy with this one. I think it's cute. And I really did sew it on pretty well so that it's not flippity-flopping. I don't like pom-poms that are like wobbling all over the place. I like them to be nice and firm. So I think I told you about this when I did that Christmas striped colored hat that I made for myself. I stitched my pom-pom, I don't just put those two strings from the pom-pom through and tie them on or stitch them on. I actually sew them up through the body of the pom-pom from underneath. You can't see it on the outside, but it definitely makes it more sturdy on the inside. And so it doesn't go. I am just full of descriptiveness today. So anyway, this is finished. I like it. I mean, I do. I really like it. And I loved working with this colorway. It is a fun autumnal colorway. I don't know that I will really wear this hat a whole lot. Like I said last week, I would like to make this pattern again using a more solid or semi-solid or like a heathered kind of wool, a non-superwash for this. And I may do that at some point. I spent a good bit of time looking in my stash for something like that, and I don't have anything that would really work, especially because I want to be able to use that raccoon fur pom-pom on it that I have. And that pom-pom just doesn't really go with a lot of colors. It's an odd color. I think if I had like a really dark charcoal heathery gray, that might be a good color, but I don't have any yarn like that in my stash other than what I'm using for another project already. Yeah, so I don't know. And so then I started thinking, well, I've got lots of fiber. I could spin some yarn for it. And I may end up doing that, actually, because I've got a lot of really nice fiber that would probably work super well for that. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up doing, but it's not like a top knitting priority right now to make another one of these. For right now, I'll have this as a sample for my shows, and it's done. So that is my other one, and that's the Quadri Hat by Michelle Wong, out of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Cozy Base Leaf Pile Colorway, US 7 needles. I did the small size, and again, the small size blocked out to be a nicely fitting hat. If I would do it again and I would do the large size, I would definitely do the band part on a smaller needle so that it would be snugger, because this blocked out is fine. It fits fine, but on the larger size, I'm afraid it would end up being too loose. So. All right, and I have another finished hat for you this week that you haven't even seen. Actually, you probably saw it a long, long time ago. It's just a plain vanilla hat knit out of some, this may be my gold colorway. I think this is my gold colorway because I think it was left over from another project. Again, cozy, my superwash cozy weight base. If you remember, I did a color work hat a while back. It was orange, and then I did little pops of yellow and gray in it. And this was the yellow that I used, the gold that I used for that. And it was just a charity hat. Although I've not given it to charity, what I found was it's the perfect size hat to use. I have these ice packs that are about this big. and they're rounded kind of on the ends. I use them on my lower back's really, really bothering me. But I have to wrap them like in a towel or something, or they'll give me frostbite. Ask me how I know. Even through clothing. I found that that hat is the perfect size to fit an ice pack in. It's the perfect ice pack cozy, so I think that's what I'm going to keep it as, just because it works so well. Anyway, I still had yarn left over of all three of those colors, so I cast this on. I did the ribbing just in the gold, and then I was going to do another just impromptu color work pattern, but then I sat it aside. It just had the ribbing and about a ½ an inch of hat knit, and it's been in a bag ever since, and I think that was like back in August. But my son and I went to see the new Star Wars movie on Tuesday night, and I just needed a plain vanilla something to work on, and none of my socks were at the right spot that I could take them to a movie without having to do other things with them. So I pulled this hat out, and I thought, you know what? I'll just take this and I'll work on this. And so I did, and I actually knit the whole hat up through about this part in the crown decreases in the movie in the dark. That's pretty impressive. I was basically to the point where I couldn't do any more without a second needle because I was too few stitches on the circular needle. But I had also goofed up a decrease, and I knew I did because I got to the end of a round and I didn't have enough stitches to do my next decrease. I'm like, darn it, I know I messed something up. So I just put it away and watched the movie. That was a really intense movie, by the way. If you have not seen the latest Star Wars movie, very, very intense. I'm sitting there like this part of the time, and my son's like, are you okay? Uh-huh. So anyway, it was probably good that I just put the hat away. But I have another finished hat, and you know, it was meant to be a charity hat, but I actually really, really like it because it's bright yellow. It's this gold color, and even though it's just gold and it's a plain vanilla hat, I love this color, especially in the winter. It's just so cheerful and happy, so I don't know. I may just keep it for me. I don't know. We'll see. I have like a box with a whole bunch of charity hats in them that I knit last year that never got taken anywhere. That's my problem with charity hats. I know there are probably charities around me that collect hats for like homeless or needy people. I can never find them. I've already mailed hats off to people in other states who do collections or given them away to other out-of-state charities because I can't find anybody local collecting things at the right time when I have them. It's kind of ridiculous. So I need to do a better job of looking for places to home my charity hats. Okay, moving on. Those are all of my finished objects, which I think that's pretty good. 3 in 1 week. I did do more work on my husband's socks this week. You already saw the first finished one. And this is actually the garden colorway. No, wait, is it? Garden. I think I called it Summer Nights last week. Summer Nights is a different colorway, a different Arnie and Carlos colorway. This is not Summer Nights. This is Garden. And it's number, do I have the number? I don't have the number here. It's on my project page. Anyway, I worked on this. On Sunday, we went to see Love Never Dies, aka the Stalker Opera Part 2, because it's like the continuation of the Phantom of the Opera story. I'm not a huge fan of the opera fan. My husband really likes it. He likes like the sets and the music and the costuming and everything. I don't know that the storyline is his favorite, but he took me to see it and last year or 2 years ago, maybe now, I don't remember. And I'm like, that is creepy. It's like a totally creepy story. And he's like, yeah, but weren't the costumes beautiful? I'm like, yeah, but okay. So then we went to this one because he wanted to see this. And I did not have high hopes for enjoying it at all. I actually enjoyed it more than I did when I thought I would. It seems to be a theme this week. But anyway, I took a sock to work on because I knew we would have some waiting time before it started and intermission and everything. So I figured, why not? So I did work on it. I am on the heel flap. I'm not quite finished with the heel flap yet. So it's coming along. Not really anything exciting to share with you about that, other than the fact that it did actually coordinate with the color scheme of the program from the opera. The costumes were stunning, I will say. I didn't think the sets were quite as elaborate as the Phantom of the Opera that we saw in Cleveland a couple years ago. But they were good. The storyline was still totally messed up. And like there was some that was like wait, what? You know, it's kind of like, can an opera jump the shark? Because if it can, I feel like this one maybe did a little bit. I don't know. Okay, so moving on. That's really all I, no, it's not all I knit on. Shoot, why did I not have, I don't have this written on, oh, probably because I wrote my notes up the other day before I started working on this. I have one other thing I've been working on, and this kind of goes along with our theme for the knit along this month, which is the finish, frog, repair, or repurpose. This was a repair that I had to do before I could finish, and this is my hero cardigan. I pulled it out of hibernation. It hasn't seen any activity lately. So I pulled it out, I don't remember which day, earlier this week, actually, maybe Tuesday. And I just decided I'm going to do the sleeves now, because I knew the sleeves would be easy. If you remember, this is what they used to look like at the end. The cuffs had the color work, and then they went into the gray. Except my sleeves ended up being about 4 inches too long. So I had made the decision that since I was taking this blue out of the yoke, that was one of the issues I had. I didn't like the blue being way up by my face because the other colors in it were just too dark, and I didn't think it went together super well. I wanted to remove the blue color work from the bottom of the sleeves too. Again, because it was super bright and it just felt like it was calling attention down to my hands, which are by your hips, and that's not really an area where you want attention drawn. So I had made the decision I was just going to cut the color work, this whole bottom 4 inches off, which turned out to be the right amount. And then I would pick those stitches up and knit my cuff, re-knit my cuff down 2 inches, and it would be the perfect length. I guess the sleeves were 2 inches too long. That's right. The sleeves were 2 inches too long. I had to take 4 inches off to end up with the correct length. So I've got these two cuffs here that I have not torn out because I'm not convinced that I can't turn them into something else. Someone on Instagram said, hey, it looks like you have the beginning of some mittens there. And they could be mittens. They're a little loose. I think they would be maybe a tiny bit loose. I don't know. Maybe not. They could be okay. The only problem is I'm not going to have much of this dark gray left when I'm done with the sweater, so I'd have to get another ball of gray if I wanted to do mittens. I don't know. We'll see. This is, again, not a top priority knitting issue, but I'm going to hold on to those and not just throw them away. So I have to pull this out of the bag. It's really wedged in there. It's so huge. Don't fall. Okay. Let me see. I need to get this all. I'm kind of in the middle of a round, I guess. Anyway, here are my newly knit cuffs. There's one of them. Nothing exciting. It's just a plain gray cuff now. I am much happier with it. I did put it on to make sure they're the right length. They are. Perfect. Wonderful. Other one. So 2 new cuffs. Yay. I was on a roll, so I thought, okay, I got that done. I'm going to rip out this top yoke. And if you remember, I wanted to take the blue out so that I could just finish the yoke in this purple. I have 2 purples and then this tealy color in the middle. I figured I'd just finish it in the purple. It was also up a little higher than I wanted it, so I wanted to make it a more shallow neckline. But my issue was I had really gone off the pattern as far as my yoke decreases, and so I felt like I really needed to pay attention as I unwound it or unraveled it so that I knew where I needed to put decreases in again. In the end, I just frogged the darn top until I got down to the all purple part. I've got like this ball of blue left now, and I don't know. I've got a lot of that blue left actually. Anyway, I ripped it out, I put the needles back in, and I just started knitting the purple. I did count how many stitches I had at that point, and I looked at the pattern, but I was so far off the pattern at that point, I'm really just sort of winging it. So at this point, I'm kind of at the end of doing, they have some short row shaping, and so that's what I was redoing, the short row shaping, because I had knit a little bit of the purple. I did not bother doing any more color work. The color work sort of abruptly ends right here. There should have been a few more rows but they were just really tiny little pops of this teal, and I just didn't care enough to have them in there. So I'm going with it as it is. I think it looks fine. It's not like a hard break, it's just those little pops aren't up here. So I knit several rounds, I don't know, 4 or 5 rounds of the purple. I did do a decrease round in there, and then I did another decrease round, I believe, and then did the short row shaping. I need to do some more decreases, I think. But what I need to do once I'm done with this, I'm in the middle of a short row right now. When I get finished with that, I'm going to stick this on 2 needles so that I can try it on again. Because I'm actually looking at it, I'm actually thinking this might be fine right here where it is, and I can just knit the collar, like the collar band. Because I don't want it way up here around my neck where it was when I had the blue in it. That was just too tight. And number-wise, as far as the number of stitches I have now versus where I'm supposed to be when I do the collar, again, I'm off. I think I have fewer stitches now than what the smallest, like the smallest size is supposed to have. I don't know. My gauge is not where it's supposed to be either, which is part of the problem. And that leads to the third thing that I have to fix on this is when I steek it, instead of just steeking it, I'm going to have to take like 5 inches out of the front because it's just way roomier than it needed to be. In hindsight on this project, I was basically applying what worked in that antler cardigan that I made. The principles of my fit of the antler cardigan I was trying to apply to this sweater. And in the end, they just didn't completely work. That and my gauge ended up being a bit off. And a bit is probably a generous way of saying it was really off. It's not going to be unwearable. I know it'll be fine, however it ends up. It just didn't quite turn out the way I was hoping it would. At this point, I just want it to be finished. I want it off the needles. I want to start a new sweater. That is what I want. And I'd like to be able to wear this because it's a heavy sweater and I need to be able to wear it in the coldest part of winter, which I'm hoping, I mean, I'd prefer not to have negative temperatures again, but I feel like we're still going to end up with some, you know, some cold temperatures, so I would like to be able to wear this while we have them. Sorry, I need to just move that over a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so it's the Hero cardigan by somebody that I'm not remembering because I forgot to put this on my show notes at all. Sorry. Oh, the other thing I did was I went down a needle size when I started knitting the purple again because I had been doing the whole yoke on 7s. I think I did the body on 6s. Either 6s or... No, I think I did the body on this one on 6s. On a 6, sorry. Or a 5. I may have done it on a 5. I really don't know. And then I switched to being in the round to do the top because it was knit flat. You're probably tired of hearing about this, but in case you hadn't heard about it. Yeah, that's where my gauge definitely got off up here in the top in the color work. So I don't even know where I'm going with this at this point. At any point, when I ripped it out and I picked the stitches back up, I decided I was just going to go down to the smaller size needle because I didn't need it to be as big as it was. So that's probably making a little bit of a difference too. Well, obviously it is, but anyway, whatever. Hopefully the next time you see this, it will be a finished sweater because I really, 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 really would like to have it done. So that is a top priority knitting goal, is to get that finished and done and finished and done. So. Okay, what else? Where are my show notes? Where am I? I already mentioned that I'm thinking about frogging the otar shawl or otter shawl. The other thing I'm considering frogging is that second big squish cowl that I started back in late fall, I think. Ironically, that is also out of Destination Yarns. I love her yarns. Her yarns are super pretty, but these 2 projects that I've got going with them, I'm just not sure about. So yeah, that was my own design. It's basically just a really large ribbed cowl that does this sort of fade thing in the middle with 2 colors. I made one last summer. I love it. I haven't worn it. I realized I have not worn it yet this winter. I need to get it. It's on a shelf in my office. I need to pull it off the shelf and actually be able to wear it. But I wanted to make another one, and I wanted to make it even longer so it would double easier. So that's what I had cast on. But at this point, I've kind of lost my excitement for it. And again, I think that yarn could be used for something more exciting. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Spinning. Oh, here. I didn't take this off, but I'll show you. I am still spinning the one lupine BFL silk, and I finished the first bobbin. So Yay, it's super pretty. I love how the colors are working out. Here's what the fiber looks like. I love that it's so bright on here, and this always is the way things work out with spinning. You know, it always mutes down when you spin. But I love the colors of this, so I'm still enjoying that. I haven't had a lot of time this week to work on it. Well, at least not the past couple of days. But I'm still spinning on it fairly regularly, so hopefully that'll get done soon. That is the whole first half of the fiber on that bobbin, though. I made it fit on that bobbin, so I'll definitely either need to ply it on my really noisy wheel right now, or I'm going to have to ply it on my Traveler on the smaller bobbins and just join the skeins together with a knot. I mean, not a huge big deal. I'd prefer not to do that, but it's, again, not a problem if I have to. All right. Moving on to knit-alongs, a year in the life of a knitter. I did record a special episode last week announcing all of the winners. So if you haven't watched that and you think you might be a winner, please watch. Also, I'll just give you the heads up that if you took part in the chatter thread at all in the month of December, even one post, you were a winner, because we had 25 people participate in chatter in December, and I think it amounted to like 21 prizes, and I thought that's silly to have 4 people not get a prize. So I just granted everybody a prize, and your prize choice is either $10 worth of Ravelry giftable patterns or a $10 gift certificate to my shop. So I think I've heard from the majority of you. I did read all the names on the podcast, so you can watch that and hear if you were one of them. And if you think you should have been one of them, but I didn't say your name, just go find one of your December posts and send me the number of it so I can verify it, and you are welcome to a prize as well. But anyway, yeah, just let me know which prize you would like if you haven't gotten back to me yet, and I will get it to ya. I did hear from all of the larger prize winners, like the Autumn Quarter Prize winner, the Grand Prize winner, and the Fiber Nymph Dye Works 4th Quarter Finished Object Drawing winner. Those I've all heard back from, so we're all good there. Okay, so now we're into the January knit-along, which is, again, the Finish, Frog, Repair, or Repurpose knit-along. So you've seen some of what I'm working on as far as trying to finish things. I did get some things finished, which is very exciting. So my Project Peace Shawl was a finish. I've been frogging actively, as you've known if you've listened lately. And then I'm working on my repair of my sweater to get that finished. I want to talk to you about this project that I have in mind to do as a repurpose. And I've been thinking about this for years, and I've just never done it. So this is a giant bag of socks, hand-knitted socks that I've made over the past 10 years or so now. They all have holes in them. I mean, they were just worn to death. Plus, when I first started knitting socks, I was knitting them at way too big of a gauge, so my socks wore out fairly quickly. A lot of the socks in the top half of this bag are very furry because some of them had been stored in this bag. The others were in a box that didn't have a lid on it, and it somehow got shoved under my daughter's bed, and I found out that the cat had been using it as a bed. So there's a lot of cat fur in some of these socks. They definitely need to be washed well before I do anything with them. But what my plan is, and I got to show you this pair first. This pair has exceptional sentimental value to me because this pair is the very first pair, this is the very first yarn that I ever dyed, self-striping yarn that I ever dyed, even before I opened my shop, when I was just playing with it and trying to figure it out. These were the first self-striping socks I ever did. And I don't know if you can see how furry they are, but they were in the box the cat was sleeping in. Anyway, they just make me so happy, and I'm sad that they got blown up, but they have holes in the bottom. So anyway, what my plan for all of these socks is, I'm going to take them, and I am going to take scissors. Now, if you are the faint of heart who like get a little flushed and wheezy and woozy whenever you think about cutting knitting, just bear with me. I am going to cut the cuffs off of all of these socks right above where the heel starts. I'm going to cut those off, and then I'm going to take that cuff part and I'm going to cut it down this way so it'll open up and it'll be flat. I may end up cutting the ribbing off as well because I don't think the ribbing will work for this. Basically, I'm going to make rectangles. I think they'll turn out to be rectangles of all these sock cuffs. I'm going to do that. The bottom parts I won't be using for this just because of the holes. That's where all the holes are. I'll probably save those for... I actually think, like, the parts that I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stick with the cuffs. I'm going to cut the cuffs off, open them up, cut the ribbing off, and have all these squares, and I am going to piece them together patchwork style and sew them, like using my sewing machine sew them to make a blanket top, and then I'm going to line that blanket top on the back with flannel probably, or possibly fleece depending on how big it ends up being. If it's only like a lap blanket, which I'm thinking that's probably what it's going to end up being, I think fleece might be a bit of overkill, so it'll probably be flannel. And then I will do like the tie, the quilt tying, like where you just tie it at all the little corners to hold it together. That is my plan. I have wanted to do this for ages because I think it would be super fun to still be able to enjoy the happy cuff part of your socks that are otherwise blown out on the bottom. So that is my plan for these. I don't think I'll get that whole entire project done in January, but I would at least like to get the cutting part done. You know, cut off the cuffs, cut them off the sock, cut the ribbing off, and open them up and know what I'm working with. But I do have to wash the socks before I do all that. Otherwise, everything will be unraveling. So yeah, I don't know how many pairs of socks are in here. There's a lot. I'm not going to go through the whole bag because, again, number one, it's furry. Number two, you don't need to see them all. It was funny, though, as I was going through the bag, you know, when I was bringing it up here to the mountain house yesterday, because I was looking at some of those socks. I'm like, wow, I forgot I knit those. You know, there were just some that I'd done so long ago. I think my very, very first pair of socks actually is in here. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Where are you? I know I saw it in here. Is it somewhere where I can access? Oh, here it is. I'm sure the second one's in there too, but these were the very, very first socks I ever knit. This was some sock yarn that I got at the yarn shop that I worked at. And I was just so enamored with this self-patterning yarn. I don't even know what this was. It was like a Regia or a Opal or something. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, it's very furry. God, the cat fur is just killing me right now. And I am wearing a whole bunch of it now. Goodness gracious. I have to defur myself here before I show you shop yarn later. Okay, anyway, so that is my repurpose project that I have in mind. Are you doing one? Are you doing any kind of repurposing of any kind of projects? I mean, it doesn't even have to be that drastic of a repurpose, but, you know, I'm just curious if anybody else is doing any repurposing. I've seen a lot of people in the thread on the group talk about what they're finishing and everything, but I'd love to see if you're repurposing something. Okay, I do have a couple of new things to show you, one of which is this cute bag. This is a bird leg bags bag from Vicky. Who she's actually local to me. She lives in, well, not too far from me. I won't say where she lives. Not that you wouldn't know if you order things from her. But anyway, I picked up this really cute, it's like just a box bag kind of bag. Or she calls them nest bags, I believe. And they do have pockets on the inside. I don't know if you can see the pocket. Here, turn it this way, Lisa. There, you can see the pockets in there. So it's really cute, and I bought it specifically just to have it sit next to my chair here so I can keep things in it that I'm either actively using, that are small, or that I want to show you and everything. So it's here. And in this is some yarn I wanted to show you. For Christmas, my daughter got me a gift certificate to the Woolly Thistle, which was very nice of her. So I was actually good because I did not like get on my phone immediately as we were opening presents on Christmas and order something. I held back, but I did end up ordering, and I got this beautiful skein of Blacker Samite yarn, which is a silk blend. It's a 3-ply from Blacker Yarns, 20% silk, 80% pure new wool. This was, what color was this again? Autumn Bowers. It's this really pretty tweedy brown. I just love it, and I think I'm gonna try to do don't remember the shawl name now. It's the shawl that I showed you a couple months ago, designed by Rebecca Shepler. It's a pretty lace shawl. I think this would work really well for that, and I might try knitting that. So it's like a half circle shawl. So that's what I bought this for specifically. And then since I was placing an order with the Woolly Thistle, I picked up a couple more skein balls of Jameson and Smith 2-ply, just because I'm kind of collecting it so that I can use it for color work stuff that I'm going to hopefully be working on this year. So just got these two blues. The darker one is color number FC47, and the lighter blue is FC15. So, okay, those were my new things. The other thing I was going to tell you about, my piece of paper is way over here, so hang on a second, let me stretch. Okay. I did end up finally doing my 2017 summary of projects for myself, so I thought I would share that with you. In 2017, I knit 13,357 yards, which that was pretty good. That was more than the year prior. It's not my all-time high. One year I did like over 16,000 yards, but that was pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Not like it's ever like something I have a goal that I have to hit a certain number of yards, but I'm pretty pleased with that number. Okay, so I did 7 cows / scarves. Actually, 2 of them were scarves. The other 5 were cows. 16 hats, 12 pairs of socks. I did not count half-finished socks. I just counted finished objects. So 12 pairs of socks, which if I had been doing the box of socks, I would have gotten that done. That's exciting. Only 1 sweater. That's my only downside. I wish I would have gotten more sweaters done, but only 1, and that was my antler cardigan, which had actually been started the year before, and I finally finished it that last year. 4 shawls, although 2 of which were quite large. One was this one, this garter bias wrap, which also had been started prior to last year, and I finally finished that last year. But the other one was my Find Your Fade, so that was a huge shawl. So 4 shawls, 3 headbands, which all 3 of them were my outdoorsy pattern, and only 1 pair of mitts, like fingerless mitts. That was odd, because that's something I do tend to knit quite a bit, it seems, but I only did 1 pair last year, so. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with that. I wish I would have done more sweaters, but hopefully this year. Which brings me to my 2018 sort of knitting goals. I put them in, whatever these things. Quotation marks. Oh gosh, apostrophes, quotation marks. Yeah. And I'm dropping things. Okay. I'm pretty loose with goals as far as my knitting goals go. And I know I did make knitting goals last year. I have no idea where they're at, and I don't really care. It was a good knitting year. I'm happy with my knitting year. But basically, this year I do want to craft more intentionally. Like, no matter what I'm doing, spinning or knitting or whatever, I don't want to just mindlessly cast things on all the time. That's how I end up with all of these whips that I abandon. I'd like to be a little bit more mindful about what I'm casting on, and I'd also like to be more mindful in my spinning. I've got so much hand spun that I have not knit with, so I would like to start spinning with specific projects in mind, and also, trying to pay attention to the weight of yarn that I'm spinning for particular project uses. So spinning with intention and just not mindlessly casting things on are a big goal for me this year. I definitely want to knit more color work, which is not a secret. I've mentioned that a lot. So that is definitely a goal. Sorry, I've got fluff from those socks floating around now. I definitely want to knit more sweaters and hopefully color work sweaters at that. I want to continue to knit and spin from my stash. That's always a goal for me. And that's not at the exclusion of purchasing new stuff, because obviously I don't have a problem picking up new things here and there, but I do want to continue to use my stash. And I want to learn how to weave. I've got my loom is still sitting over there in the box. I have not put it together yet, and I want to learn how to weave, and I want to weave this year. So those are my main goals as far as I know them at this point in time, subject to change as the year progresses, I suppose, but Yeah. And I mean, I've also thought about like my personal goals and business goals, but I'm not going to really go into those here. I mean, I'm sure you'll hear about them as things come up. Probably my biggest personal goal this year is to get my house sold. You know, we have got a ton of work to do. This kind of segues into 10%, by the way. The next big project is going to be my kitchen. My husband is chomping at the bit to rip my kitchen out of my house and redo it, which is just making me a big ball of anxiety because at this point I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be living there, so I have pretty much no investment in what it looks like other than the fact it needs to look decent enough to sell, right? So I am so unenthused about this project that every time we start talking about it, it ends up being frustrating for him because I'm just like, whatever, I don't care. I just don't care. And I don't know how to get over that. I need to care enough to be able to be helpful in this process. Right now, my biggest helpful thing will be I need to pack up my kitchen. I need to put dishes in boxes and purge stuff. And, you know, that needs to be high on my priority list. I need to continue to do that in other rooms as well. Plus, the whole upstairs of the house needs to be painted, which I will be doing. I'm fine with painting. I told him I need him to be the one to tape everything and put stuff on the floor because I'm horrible about that detail work, but I'm happy to paint. So he's good with that. And we need to replace like interior doors and trim in some places. But other than that, the biggest thing is the kitchen. So my bag of fuzzy socks just fell over. Anyway, so that is probably my biggest personal thing coming up this year. It's just hopefully getting my house sold. I will be so relieved. I will be sad. It's still a very, very bittersweet thing, you know, and I can be sitting at my house some days and just suddenly burst into tears thinking about it. It's very hard for me. But at the same time, it will be a huge relief to not still have the house. So anyway, that's the big personal thing. Let's move on to shop news. I want to mention that the Happy Hour Self-Striping Yarn Club signups did open this past Monday. As I told you last week, there were going to be 30 spots in that. 20 of them are gone. There are 10 spots left in that club. So if you are interested in being a part of that club, it's a 3-month club. Shipments every other month, February, April, and June. All of the details are in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group. There's a thread with all of the information and a link to the sign-up questionnaire. Lots of yarn-based choices from fingering to sport to worsted weight. Yeah, just lots of choices. Go check that out. Like I said, there's 10 spots left. If there are any still left this coming Monday, I'm going to leave the questionnaire, the sign-up questionnaire open through Monday, and then I'll close it. And if they're not all filled, they're not all filled. It's not a big deal to me. But if you are interested in getting in, you have 10 spots left to go. I've got shows coming up this year. It's going to be a good show year, I think. I think at this point, I've got 7 potential shows on my calendar. Some of them are way into the year, so I haven't even applied to them yet, but they're ones that I tend to do. So as long as I still get into them, that'll be great. But I've got 4 vending opportunities this spring, March and April, basically. The 2 going on in April, I know I'm doing. The 2 in March are question marks. I have not heard if I've gotten into either of those yet. So that's a stay tuned kind of thing, but I will definitely let you know. I'm fingers crossed I get into them. But it will make for a very busy spring for me, which is great, because when you have your own business, you want to be busy, right? Let's see, there will be a shop update this Friday, and I'm going to go in just a minute, and I'm going to go get the yarn to show you what will be in there. But first, I want to just let you know, I told you I was going to have my second regular update of the month be the Guy Colors update, which is now officially going to be called the Manuary update. Thank you, Rycrafty. She posted in one of the threads on the 90% Knitting group. She says, "Oh, please tell me you are calling the Guy Colors update the Manuary update." And I said, well, I am now, because that is an awesome name. Anyway, that will be on the 26th of January. However, because I was not able to get everything dyed up for tomorrow's update that I wanted to get dyed up, I'm probably going to do another update on the 19th. So there will be updates 3 Fridays in a row. Tomorrow, then the 19th, and then the 26th. So you can just be thinking about that. But anyway, I'm going to pause so that I can reorganize and defer myself, and then I'm going to go get the yarn and I will show you. If you're not interested in sticking around to see the yarn, I totally understand. I'll catch you next week, but otherwise hang on and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This is actually, oh, excuse me. Tomorrow's update is actually going to be a little bit smaller than I anticipated it to be, mainly because of some time constraints that I had this week, which is another reason why I'm going to add another update next week that I hadn't originally been planning to do. However, I decided to focus on new colorways for this week's update, so that's where I'm going to start. I have a new self-striping winter colorway for you, which has been inspired by the ridiculously unseasonably cold weather that we had here recently. And the colorway name is Brrr, B-R-R-R-R, with exclamation points. And this is what it looks like. So this is a self-striping colorway that's got 3 different blues, and then there's the white speckly stripe in between each of those. So that's a sample of it knit up. This sample is knit up on my bedazzled base, but this will be available on multiple bases. So it'll be available, I believe, on Bounce, Bedazzled, and Traveler, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's what I have it as. So that's one new colorway. I had another new winter colorway that I was going to show you and offer, but I'm going to hold that one and wait till next week and put that in next week's update, and I'll explain why next week. But anyway, that's the new self-striping winter colorway that I'm introducing this week. Again, it's called Brrr. And then I've got some new Valentine's colorways for you. These are always fun. I like doing Valentine's colors. I know not everybody's super into Valentine's Day, but they're fun colorways to do. So, let me reach. One of them is also a self-striping colorway. Actually, 2 of them are, but this one I have a sample knit up because it has a swirl stripe in it. And this colorway is called Unconditional. So this one has the small stripe of red and a small stripe of black with this intermediate stripe, which is your swirl stripe, that is got a lot of white and various shades of lighter pinks and a little bit of lighter gray in there. And let me explain my inspiration for this. Basically, whenever you're in a relationship, whether it is a romantic relationship or even like a parent-child relationship, or either, being on either end of a parent-child relationship, or being in a relationship with a friend who you care deeply about, you can love that person unconditionally, but you may not always like them. And you probably know what I'm talking about. We just all have our moments. We're probably not likable all the time, right? So that's kind of what I was reflecting in this colorway. You've got those times, those bright, red-hot times where you just love that person so much and they are awesome. And then you've got the opposite times where they are doing something to get on your last nerve and you are so frustrated and you just don't even, like you cannot even, but you still love them. You may not like them, but you still love them. But then, more often than not, there's all those in-between times, right? That's where life happens, in those in-between times of just the soft, maybe not super exciting, but just the soft everyday times where you've got all those other shades in there, a little bit of hot pink, a little bit of soft pink, the fun, happy days, the little bit of gray, that light gray where it's like, okay, just the mundane moments of the day. And then, the white that just stands for like the everyday, the neutral of every day, that even if it's not the most exciting thing in the world to be with that person, you still love them unconditionally. And so that's what I wanted to reflect in this, because I think the world needs a little bit more unconditional love between various people. Anyway, so this is called Unconditional, and this also will be available on several different bases. So Those are the two new self-striping colorways. There's actually a third, which is not brand new because it was a club colorway, and this was last February's Pie of the Every Other Month club colorway, but it is a Valentine's oriented colorway, and it's called Sweetie Pie. And so those 5 different colors of the stripes in there, they're not actually pie flavors, but they represent different colors of roses and what they mean. So that will all be explained in the listing. Sweetie Pie is going to go up as a pre-order listing though, and these will ship out by the end of January. So you'll definitely have them before Valentine's Day if you want them. I will have pre-orders up for them in Bounce, Bedazzled, and Traveler. If you want them on a different base, like you really, really want your pie colorway on some other base that I'm not offering, feel free to PM me and I will let you know what I can do to accommodate that. But the pre-order that will be in the shop this week will be specifically for Bounce, Bedazzled, and Traveler, and those are the ones that I can guarantee will ship out by the end of January. This is on Bedazzled, actually, just so you know. And again, if you're not familiar with my pie colorways, PI, it's kind of PI with E in parentheses. It's usually a play on words because the stripes often represent flavors. In this case, it's flowers. But anyway, the striping is not regular. It goes according to the digits of pi. So the stripes are relative, sizes are relative to the digits of pi, so they will not repeat, the pattern will not repeat at all in the skein. So if you look on Ravelry, you can find samples of, or not samples, but examples of other pie colorways that people have knit up and striped up. And I will have you know, a mock-up of the striping pattern in the listing, as I always do. Okay, and then lastly, I believe this, oh no, it's not the last thing, but it's related to the last thing. I have some Valentine's mini sets that I'm going to be putting up in these lovely colors. I tried to go with a little bit of not super traditional reds and pinks. So this is a deep red that's overwashed with black, so it's a darker red. And then I did, this is my raspberry color, except it's a sort of a light raspberry, so I'm calling it raspberry cream. And this is the lighter version of magenta, so it's a lighter purple. This is my ballerina pink with a little bit of gray added to it, so I'm calling it dusty ballerina, because if you leave your ballerina sit out, she will get dusty. And then lastly, there is this one, which I'm calling the Be Mine Speckles. So I'm actually calling these the Be Mine mini set, but this is the Be Mine Speckles, and it's got all of these colors speckled into it. So these are all 20-gram mini skeins in the full set, so it's basically a whole skein of yarn. I have them on both Bedazzled and on Bounce. I also did up a bunch of full skeins of the Be Mine Speckles, so they will also be in the shop on various bases. Okay, that's everything that's going in the shop this week. As I said, I had other things I wanted to put in the shop, like some of my, you know, colorways that are already in my colorway lineup for winter colorways and Valentine's colorways, as well as some sock blanks I wanted to do. I just ran out of time. So rather than rush, I'm going to do those and I'll have them in the shop next week, but I'll show them to you next week as well. So that's everything for tomorrow. Again, the update will be tomorrow, Friday, January 12th at 6 p.m., my usual update time, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be working the rest of today to get all of my listings up there. So you can be watching for that stuff soon, hopefully by the time this is uploaded and everything. Hopefully the listings will be up there. Anyway, that's everything. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will be back and talking to you next week. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.